a lot of these things with Metallica, and this might sound a bit cliche, but it's actually really true. The music is played by us and written by us, right? But it's also played for us and written for us, which means that when we write a song, say Ride the Lightning, it's not really, we're not trying to tell anything what they should think about capital punishment or about the electric chair. We're writing it for ourselves. It's like just being honest with ourselves, and between, say, when we're together between the band or whatever, sometimes we talk about, say, case in point, capital punishment, electric chair, and we talk about it between us, and things come up, different viewpoints or whatever, and it's like we're almost writing it for ourselves. We're not lying to ourselves and saying, well, we really sort of have some fears and nightmares about capital punishment, Ride the Lightning, or suicide, Fade to Black, or being trapped in environments you can't get out of, trapped under ice, or nuclear war, fight fire with fire, or being, held by someone else or something else, like master puppets, disposable heroes, leper messiah. These are things we talk about. We're not afraid to sort of talk about them and then say, write about, chasing a girl down the street. It's like we're just being honest with ourselves, and these are some of the things that fascinate us, and some of the things that we sort of feel that it's interesting to write about this instead of writing about, running after girls or, Satan or whatever, because, which is all part of, then again,
it would clash a bit if you talk about chasing girls in the streets, or
yeah, well, it's just not really
with the music.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the way the lyrics come across and some of the ideas that are being talked about is a little bit mysterious, and also I think it just fits in really well with the music. But it's not, again, it's not purposely, the lyrics aren't purposely written to fit in with the music. They're just written about things that are fascinating us. It's like one thing that really have fascinated, me and the rest of the guys over in, like, we talked about so much and laughed at and maybe even been a bit scared of, is like, especially in America, about how people think they're so free and people think they're so independent, and it's like, which is the whole thing of what the master puppets thing is about. It's about, it's about a few, it's like people being ruled by someone else. It could be other people, it could be institutions, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be religion. I mean, it's a number of things that could be run by or ruled by, only they don't really know. It's all subconsciously, which is really what the whole thing of master, like with someone holding the dolls and all that, and ruining and sort of planning them out and telling them what to do, and now you move your arm and all. That's really that whole thing. And there's four songs on the new album that deal with that issue in 4 different ways. There's Master Puppets, which deals with someone's life being run and ruled by drugs, only he doesn't really know it and is afraid to admit it. There's the song Disposable Heroes, which deals with a young kid's life being sort of run by his parents and by the government, and them sort of being proud of him going out to war and fighting for all this stuff he doesn't know about. He's sort of just an extension of these people's war ideas and so forth, so he's a puppet in that sense. Then there's a song which people a lot of times find an interesting title. We have the title called Leper Messiah.
Yes, second song of B-side.
Yes, which is one thing. A lot of times at home in San Francisco, when me and James have been out, drinking all weekend or whatever, on Sunday night, just sort of sit on the couch, real burned out from the whole weekend. On Sunday night, American television, a lot of the channels, they have what is called sort of TV religion, or sort of, the proper word is evangelism, which is they have a preacher on television preaching, the word of God, speaking out of the Bible, talking about Jesus and whatever, right? And then he's, it's really, really interesting. It's something that really has to be believed, seen to be believed. And then he talks about, if you send me money, you can go to heaven sooner.
Well, I've seen some of those so-called new prophets, or
and it's all
preachers on TV
going. And it just basically what it does is it works on people's sort of, just people are really ignorant, and they they have this guy saying, you If
I
you
want your money.
well, I mean, he doesn't say it directly. He
yeah.
says, God needs your money to build more churches. So if you send your money to me, I will build the churches. So he goes and buys a swimming pool and a Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
And people think that they will go to heaven sooner or have a better heaven if they send money. And just I mean, it's very, very, just people being very ignorant and being just very stupid, basically.
Right.
And then, I mean, so a lot of these songs deal with different types of being manipulated.
Yeah.
And these are just some of the things that interest us, so we write about them. Period.
Yeah. No,
but we're not like, which was your initial question, how do we want people to sort of receive this? I don't really think that we want people to. It's like this is what we feel. This is what we're. I mean, you make up your own mind. It's not. We're not pointing the finger saying you have to think. It's like we're not saying this is our statement. You should sort of agree with it. It's just this is what we feel, and that's it. You can look at it how you want.
If they really understand what you mean, they probably get even more upset. You know, if you're talking about Master of Puppets in this way.
Well, yeah. But I mean, then again, they would probably have to be us to understand it from our point of view because of the way we live and the life we live and the thoughts that we have and the beliefs and so forth. You know, I mean, middle class America. Something we could talk about hours because I'm Danish, right? And it's like for me being sort of an outsider in sort of middle class America.
You were born in Denmark. Or?
Yeah, I'm Danish, still Danish citizen. Lived 17 years in Denmark and then in 1980 came to America.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of, stuff that, I mean, you can actually talk about it for hours. And it's like, I mean, where does it, we just write songs, write lyrics, and write about things that fascinate us, and people can interpret it the way they want to. But then, like we said earlier, it's difficult for people to interpret it the way we feel about it when we write it because they're not us, so they don't really know how we look at it when we write it. So it's all really complicated, as you can sense, and it's something that we could infiltrate it so much that people wouldn't even be able to understand what I'm saying, in this interview. So it's like we should just leave it at saying that we write about things that interest us, and people can pick it up however they want to. But I'm not sure that everyone picks it up the way that we feel about the thing when we initiate.
Well, obviously it's an old statement, but it's generally known that in Europe it's difficult for people to understand what you're talking about because the lyrics are different, especially the way James sings. It's very
well, that's why we always that's why we always have lyrics in the
it's very difficult to understand. There's a lot of words like that you can't hear because it's too fast. So
that's why we have lyrics. You can sit and read them.
Yeah. So, but generally speaking, it's a bit difficult for people to. It's gonna be lyrics on this album as well.
Definitely.
Thank God for that.
You can have a look at them after if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we carry on or stop it? Because I think we are like 1 hour late on everything.
No, I mean I don't care. No, carry on. I mean. Carry on till you feel that you have enough for what you want.
Well, I think I have enough because it's like you've been talking like hell.
But we haven't covered very much. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, it's up to you. We talked a lot about the new album. Yeah.
No, it's just because you've been you've done interviews. Well, not with me, but with other people. Probably you've been talking about Metallica. More general things about Metallica in the earlier days. So I suppose
I mean, it's good not to talk about. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to the interview before, it was like, what sort of food do you like? I mean.
Yeah, but that's a German magazine.
Yeah, I know. So I have to sit there. Yeah.
German magazines are like that.
I know, but it's more interesting. It's been this. I've not heard This Is Honest. I've not heard because when Ride the Lightning, when we were sort of doing press for Ride before it was actually released, a lot of people heard. I talked to some people that were disappointed with Ride the Lightning and said, but I've not yet heard one person that has said anything bad about this.
The thing is, you always, I think, that kids get used to the sound of the band. therefore we go back to the thing you said before of that band having done 12 albums and having troubles because they've always been too narrow in their and so when they changed their sound, because after 12 albums they're bored to death, the kids are going to go, what? Like Motorhead, change the sound. The kids are going to go, what is this? For you?
It's alright.
Yeah.
No, that's me, I'm just passing.
But I just think that we've gone about
it's
doing that.
yeah.
I think we've gone about doing
But it's just a
that
matter
whole
of
change
getting
thing.
them to understand it. Yeah. But
I think-
maybe it shouldn't be very difficult.
Yeah,
to do.
because we've just never limited ourselves to any one thing in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
That's why it's
right.
like wherever we go, we're not changing because we have that basis covered somewhere on what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If on the next album it's all speed, and we have that basis covered. If on the next album we do all soft blues stuff, I mean, there's shit like that on the fucking album. So it's like, I mean, you can't suddenly say that's all new because I mean, and I'm not saying, again, it's like we don't, you know, we're not so varied just so we're on the safe side, but we're so varied because we like to play these all different things and they work better for us. You know, some of the things just work better when the different moods change all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just more interesting. Also more interesting to write them.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge when we take, you know, it's like some bands, you know, they sit down to, I mean, it's so funny. I laugh every time I see an interview. Someone goes, we wrote 35 songs in 2 weeks, and then we sat down and picked out the 10 best. It's like, I mean, I can't do anything but laugh because, I mean, we have 8 songs, right? It takes us fucking 8 months to write 8 songs, you know? It's like we're the slowest in the world, but we also come about it.
You're slow, isn't it?
Slowest writing.
Yeah.
But we also approach the whole thing. Oh, that was the clock. No, we also approach it differently. We take like 8 songs. It's like, here's our next album. These are the 8 songs, and then we like work on each of them until they're as good as they can get.
Yeah.
We don't, you know, like.
Well, especially the way they're structured. You have it's like
I mean, it really
lots of pieces put together like a collage.
I mean,
a puzzle. Or something.
You know, if people, it could be really funny one day to. I mean, it could be funny to like release an album of how some of these, like release an album of me and James writing the songs in the garage at home, because like, and then you could hear that, you hear like 3 minutes of Damage Incorporated, right? Used to be in Disposable Heroes, and you know, the whole middle part of Master of Puppets used to be in another song, and you know, 3 minutes of something on the new album was left over from a song from the first album and things like that.
Yeah, it's a collage.
Yeah, it's like bits and pieces, you know, tied together that just work the best as we can make them work now.
Well, I went to see Exciter in the studio. I mean, they're very nice guys. But then you go to listen to the while they're mixing, right? And you listen to just the drum part. It's just a just the same for the whole thing. You listen to the bass. It's just and then it's all just the leads on top and the old bits and pieces, all the curls on top that make the songs different one from the other. But it's so similar. I mean, I bet that people take 4 days. Those bands take 4 days to write 10 songs because they're just the same.
I mean, if you've heard, there's some stuff on here. It's like, I mean, when me and James write songs together, it's like, I mean, the amount of stuff that we say, wait a minute, that's a little bit like this thing, and we just throw it away. And there's so many places like when, you know, we had things on this album where it's like, listen to it, wait a minute, that sounds a little bit like something on Ride the Line, just throw it away. You know, because like, I mean, you got to be careful just not to repeat yourself. And it's like, I mean, I just think that these 8 songs, it's like, they just really work. I also think that one thing that's really important, I think the album works better as a whole album. It's like you start at Battery and play the whole album and end up in Damage, and then it works really well like that. I think, I'm not saying, what I'm trying to say is I think the whole album as a whole is better than taking 2 or 3 of the songs out by themselves because they all fit so well with each other.
Yeah, but like I thought the B side of Ride the Lightning is very well structured. I mean, I think the 4 songs of the B side, like Ride the Lightning, are very the 4th.
Yeah,
Are very well
structured.
You know, they just fit perfectly.
I think
it's not. So
I mean, that's the same. I mean, actually, we. That's one thing that's interesting about this, because a lot of bands, they do the record and then they sit down after the record's done. I tell you, we had the running order of the album planned out before the songs were written. If you can understand that.
Yeah.
I tell you, we had. I mean, the running order, side 1, side 2 songs
I know.
was planned out. Probably when we had maybe 4 complete songs, the main ideas for about 2 or 3 songs, and like 1 riff for the last song. The running order was planned out. I don't know if that says something about that it works to, because it just works, as a full album that way, instead of, I mean, and there was at one point we're saying, because a lot of people feel that the song Welcome Home Sanitarium is one of the strongest songs on the album, last song on side 1, and that could be a song that could maybe do something on American radio. Of course, it was not written for the radio, but it's a song people, the record company may say this could maybe do quite well, and say it's placed last on the album.
Yeah.
And because the album is
last one.
Yeah, last one on side 1. Because the album is so long, 27 minutes aside, the quality of the sound is a little bit less because you have so much music on. You only have so much room on a record, right? So usually the songs that tend to suffer sound-wise are the last song, the further down you get on the record. So like the end of the album is maybe a little bit less sounding than the beginning of the album.
I know,
And then Sanitarium was hanging out at the end of side 1, and people were going, why don't you try and move that around a little bit? And we sat down, and it was just like, it was impossible to move it. It was impossible to just not have it the way that these 8 songs are in a row, because the whole flow of how the album works would just not be the same.
Would it
with different tempos and moods and feels and stuff like that?
Just an idea. Would you think it would be to stretch the thing too much? You have like a side, one song that lasts the whole side of an album. I mean, you ever thought of doing something like that? A big.
No, I don't. No.
You think you're stretching it too much? Yeah.
I think.
No, just came it.
I don't know. Now that if I really think of it seriously, I think that would be really bad to do. The album is gold by the time this comes out in your magazine. It should be gold by in about 2 or 3 weeks from when we're speaking right now. It's done about 475,000 copies in America. It went gold in Canada about 3 weeks ago, and it's obviously doing quite well everywhere. It's I think it's, especially in America, which was the one market that was going to be very interesting. I mean, in Europe, obviously, we've been doing quite well for a while, and it's nice to see that it still continues, in that way. But in America, it's great to see that, we're really sort of getting established now in America, and, doing the Aussie tour for 5 months obviously helped a lot, both in album sales and in sort of getting our name and what we do out to as many new people as possible. So it's been a good 6 months for us, the last 6 months in America, and what can I say?
Obviously without a house in San Francisco.
Yep, definitely without a house. when we left for the Aussie tour in March, me and James gave up the house because we knew that we wouldn't be back there for at least 9 or 10 months. And what's the point of having a house standing around when you're never there? Plus, because of the way me and James live, it was rapidly deteriorating. So,
Smashing things around.
well, you know, just have friends over for an occasional drink and things. Sometimes, occasional. Sometimes things have a tendency to get a bit out of hand. So all in all, we decided that it was probably a good idea now to sort of give up the house. Also because, sort of looking ahead, we could obviously sense that coming off this tour, which will end, it looks like at the moment now in December, coming off this tour, could, you know, probably have quite a bit more money than when we left on it, so could get, you know, a place that's a bit nicer to stay or whatever. So at the moment, as we're speaking, I'm homeless, and so is James.
Yeah,
And
but where is he now? Like,
he has.
He broke his hand, so now you would be off.
Well, we have, you know,
Be at home.
we have these 3 weeks off. Yeah. He's quote unquote at home in San Francisco, where he's rented himself into a hotel room with sort of kitchen facilities, like a combination hotel room, apartment, whatever.
Yeah.
So he's at home in San Francisco for the rest of August till we start rehearsals on September 3rd up in Birmingham. And I mean, what happened was the Aussie tour ended in America on August 3rd, and it started in March, so it went from March to August, and then the rest of August we had headline dates booked with Keel supporting his Sabotage opening it. We had that booked on the East Coast of America for the rest of August, and it was those dates that had to be canceled. We thought that when the whole thing with James's hand happened about 3 weeks before the Aussie tour ended, we thought that we could definitely pull it off in a situation where on the Aussie dates we play, you know, 55 minutes a night, where James would just be singing and not playing guitar, and then our guitar roadie John Marshall, who's been with us for about 3 years and is like, you know, has been with us the longest. He knows obviously most of the stuff, and so what we did was James would just be singing, and John would be sort of behind the scenes in that sense. But it wasn't like we were trying to like hide the fact that he was there. We would bring him out on stage and introduce him to the crowd and whatever. But he was obviously, you know, maybe a bit nervous, and he doesn't move around.
Well, that tends
You know,
to happen
yeah.
even when Schenker had Schenker couldn't play all the parts, so he had his roadies back in the States playing guitar.
But I mean, at
He
least we.
didn't want to be on stage because he was very shy. He didn't want to have any sort of...
But I mean, we openly sort of brought him out and said, here, this is John who's playing James's rhythm guitar bits sort of over there in the corner. And that went fine for the rest of the Aussie tour, which then ended on August 3rd. But we thought that we could pull it off in the Aussie situation, doing, you know, 7, 8 numbers, and where Aussie was still sort of the main attraction, but we didn't think that we could pull it off in a situation where we were the main attraction and playing hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, playing, you know, a lot more songs that we had John wasn't familiar with because we hadn't played them for 5 months in the Aussie set and whatever. So we decided to, the dates were not canceled, they were merely postponed till we had 3 weeks off between Europe and Japan in October, November, and now the dates have been put in between Europe and when we start in Japan, the 3 weeks on the East Coast, which it ties in where we've done the whole country with Aussie supporting, and then Aussie went to Japan for 3 weeks in May, and in those 3 weeks in May, we did like, you know, like the most important cities in the Midwest in a headline situation, and then joined up with Aussie when he came back from Japan. Then in this break in August, we were going to do 3 weeks of headline stuff on the East Coast,
And then it was going to be...
and then Europe, and then yeah, and then as it looks right now, after we're done with Europe, we're now going to go. We do 7 weeks in Europe, headlining, then come back and do the 3 weeks on the East Coast of America headlining that we lost in August. Then we do Japan for a week and a half. Then after Japan, it's Australia for about 4 or 5 gigs or whatever, then it looks like New Zealand will be put in after Australia. And then the good news is that there's a chance, and I'm not going to say anything more than it's not confirmed, but it looks like there's a chance that we're going to do Brazil after Australia, which would be great because that will carry us in all the way into December and sort of get us to new places. Yeah, new places, which is great. I mean, there's nothing more fun than going to new cities and sort of playing,
Plus
for
all
new.
those places are the kind of places where you never see any band.
Yeah. So
Where you might be like playing in front of 100,000 people just because it's a gig. It's a
Well,
gig,
yeah. But I mean, no matter how many people you play for, it'd just be very interesting to go there. And like I said, Japan's confirmed and Australia's confirmed, and it looks like New Zealand's confirmed. And then we just got an offer last week. That's why I can't say as we're speaking right now that it's on off, but it looks like there's a chance that after New Zealand we'll go to Brazil. And now we're talking about, we start Japan on November 15th. So the period after we end in Europe, which is October 26th until November 15th, we'll be doing dates in America. And then we start in Japan November 15th and do Japan. Then Australia will be like the last few days in November. And then New Zealand and Brazil in December. And then we should then go back. And since we've done the middle of the country and the east part, then come back and do headline dates on the West Coast. And then we've done pretty much.
Yeah, I
mean, then we've been on tour for 10 months on this record, which is a lot.
Then it's time to get a house.
Then it's time to look into a living situation. So it's time for another bite here of these different things.
Misfortunate of being off for 3 weeks and not having a house, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I get obviously on very well with Peter, our manager here in London.
Yeah. So you came over.
And he's got a great house. And I love coming over here and staying because, first of all, it's close to Denmark, so I can go home to Denmark if I want. And my mother is in Spain, so what I'm planning on doing next week is going down and visit my mom in Spain because I haven't seen her for 6 months. And so it's like, it's just nice to be in Europe, especially because when we're done in Europe, we won't come back to Europe for I think quite a while because after we're done, and next time we're definitely going to record the record in America. So I don't think we'll be in Europe for quite some time. So it's nice for me to sort of have a base in London at Peter's lovely house where I can sit with my feet up on the table and watch videos, and just do things that are great to do at home, which is like one of the things I really miss about being on the road. I mean, it's great and everything, but I mean, the one thing of just sitting in a hotel room all the time just gets really fucked after a while. And just being able to be in a house like Peter's and just watch videos and make tea in the morning and shit like that. It's just not being confined to just one room is lovely.
James must be crazy out there.
Huh?
James must be going crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. That's why, we had a couple of days in San Francisco. When we played in San Francisco, we had like a couple of days off there. We stayed in a hotel in San Francisco, and it's really, really strange staying in a hotel in your sort of quote-unquote hometown, Master of Puppets, yes. Third Metallica album.
Third Metallica album. Heard it once, because I got it this morning, the cassette, to try to understand it.
Yeah. I could probably say right away without hearing what you're going to say afterwards. It's not the kind of album that you should listen to once and then make an opinion about.
I know.
Because it's so, I wouldn't say it's so complicated, but it's a kind of album that, so I tend to think that albums that that you really like the first time, really like, wow, that's great, you get tired of after about 10 listens. But the albums that last a long time are the albums that you hear new things in every time you hear them. And then when you've heard the album 10 or 15 times, you really start to understand what the hell is really going on. So that's why when you say you've heard it once, it's like, yeah, okay.
I know, but I think I've listened to your albums quite a few times.
Right.
The ones before.
Well,
I think I know,
I'd like to
especially Red Lining, I think I know it by heart or something.
Yeah, well, I like to think that this one is quite a a step, big development.
So I'm not taking your album just judging from the first
Right.
listen to it.
So
Okay.
you want to say something? Say it.
I want to say yes, as you said, sounds very complicated,
Yeah.
and seems to me you're kind of going away from a sort of ordinary thrash metal.
Definitely. Well, going away from it.
Talking about more like couple of albums, couple of bands in the last couple of years were fairly complicated as far as rhythms and tempos and everything. Merciful Fate and Manowar.
Yeah. I don't.
You tend to go more into that sort of.
Merciful Fate and Manowar. That's interesting. I have never thought that. I just think that.
I mean, you tend towards that side more than say Exodus or I don't know any other thrash
Yeah,
metal
don't
like
say
that,
it,
right? Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never thought of it that way. I think that what we've done on this third album is that I think we found a style on the last album that we were really. It was like a style, as you've noticed, as I hope you've noticed, that the difference between the first album and Ride the Lightning, the difference between the second album and Ride the Lightning is not as big as the difference between the first two
that's
albums.
right,
I think maybe the difference between the first and the second album was a big difference in maybe overall style, where I think the difference between the second and the third album is more an advancement. It's like that style we had on Ride the Lightning, but a lot better songs, better played, better sounding, works sort of just better as a whole. It's like 2 years more mature, 2 years better type thing. I think that we have a style now in the last two albums, Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, that we really are happy with. And one of the reasons we're really happy with it, and I think it works so well for us, is we're not limiting ourselves to just one thing. Well, I think some of the bands you mentioned, well, a lot of the bands in that sort of thrash thing, don't need to mention any of the names, play very sort of narrow, and they can't really sort of go further out of the borders of what they're playing. It's very small. Well, I think maybe what you said, Merciful Fate and Manowar, I don't think, I mean, if that's your first opinion, I don't think that what we're doing has really.
Well, in a very broad sense.
I think,
I'm not
I
saying
think
you
some
sound
of,
like them, but
yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that. I can maybe see
No,
some of
don't
the
worry.
some of the musical things we do. Some of the big, say when we have a 3-minute piece of musical things going on with harmonies, I can maybe see the Merciful Fate connection a little bit, because they moved a lot around and doing things like that too. But I think we keep it. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I just think we keep it a little bit easier maybe to understand than some of the stuff they did, and for ourselves mainly. I mean, it's like we don't get so complicated and so lost in ourselves in some of those 3 or 4 minute musical pieces that we do, as I feel that. And then again, I just feel that Merciful Fate sometimes got lost, and it just got so complicated that it didn't really make any sense.
I think they got so complicated that when they were playing live, they couldn't get the same couldn't do it the same.
Yeah.
It was so they could not make it at all.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get the instruments to work like they were working the album.
I just think that I don't think we've given up on where we came from. I just think we've added a lot more, because I think the two sort of fast, speedy, I hate to use the word thrashy, but I will anyway. The two sort of speedy, thrashy songs on the album, Battery and Damage Incorporated, I think are just taking of where we came from. Sort of, it's like if you go back it's like the roots of 3 years ago, just done 3 or 4 years better.
Yeah.
And they work better. Songs are played a lot better. Keep getting more aggressive, those songs. But I think without moving away from that, we've just expanded what we do. And what I'm saying is that I think what Metallica does if the two sort of furthest, the two extremes on the album are so far away that we have so much room to move in there with what we want to do,
Yeah.
and we're not really pinned down by anyone or by ourselves to sort of, I know of some bands that have problems. Some bands, there's no reason to say the name of it, but I know a band that have done about 12 albums, right? And all the albums have been pretty much within just sort of a narrow thing. And now I've heard they have some problems with a new album because it's like maybe they're just simply run dry of things to do within that sort of little space that they've played.
You can say the name if you want.
Well, I don't see any reason to. But,
No, I'm interested personally. I'm not going to put it in there, but.
Well, I've heard that there's some stuff, Judas Priest have always,
Yeah.
Judas Priest's last
Yeah,
5 albums, they've been very sort of compact with where they've moved. And I think what we're doing is, and it's not, as I've said a million times before, it's not really purposely, but I just think that the way we've written the songs for the new album and the way we've done the last 2 albums is just, it's so wide that we're not sort of tied down to any one thing. That it's, what we do on the next album, we can go in any of those directions that we want. We're not really tied down. It's really great to have that sense of sort of movement and freedom.
I think that most of this speedy thrash, whatever, metal, they all tend to have the same pattern going on and on and on. It's just a matter of speed.
Yeah.
Either it's very
That's all,
fast
yeah.
or it's semi-fast or it's slow, but it's the same sort of thing with a guitar solo here and there.
Well, we try and
that's it.
Yeah, we try and.
Well, for you, it's great to hear like an acoustic guitar and a lot of instrumental, and then you go very fast, and then you stop, and you go back. And it's all.
Yeah.
It sounds.
Also, like I've also said before, if you mix some of the fast stuff up with some slower, different, intricate stuff, that makes a fast stuff seem even faster. If you do all fast songs, then it's just another fast song. But I think we've managed to just do so many different things. I think they all sound like Metallica in a way, but it's all just very varied stuff. I mean, the album's actually like, right, you take